we were live, but I'm not sure if it was. We're going to give it about 10 seconds here to update on our end. But as that happens, we're going to be monitoring the chat. Let me know if you can hear us, if one of our audio levels is crazy off or something. We'll have Alan scoot closer to the mic, or I can scoot farther away. And we're going to get started. So thank you for joining.
All right. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. This is a first part of a 3-part live course, free completely, that's in celebration of the launch of the CG Career Booster course. And I'm joined with Alec Miller, and my name is Alan Plains. And first of all, as Alec said, welcome to everybody. Thanks for being here. I see, let's see who's in the chat. I see Mohammed El Kalani, Aryan Sudar, sorry for butchering your names. 3D Prints, Evolution of Evolving, Golistan, Drangafix. Welcome everybody, super glad to have you here. So if you guys can just confirm that you can hear us, like Alec said. And in the meantime, Alec, could you introduce yourself and a bit of your professional experience?
Yeah, so my name is Alec Miller. I'm the CEO or founder of Royals and Rogues, which is kind of a creative coalition of different freelancers and skilled just practitioners, essentially. So essentially, it's just a creative agency. It's a fancy way of saying that. Yeah, I started out as a kid, just with a PVC pipe, making lightsaber videos like everyone else did in the early thousands, drawing them on frame by frame. From there, I kind of became that kid with a camera. Anytime someone needed anything recorded or edited, they just would call me, and I just kind of do it for free. And that led me eventually to traveling to Spain every year to volunteer at different youth camps to do their media and to eventually run their whole media department multiple years. And that's where I met Alan. From there, I went on to finish my education, getting 2 certifications in production and post-production, and eventually started working in the industry. I have about 10 to 12 years of industry experience. And while working in the industry, everywhere I was at, I realized I kind of hated the way it was ran, which then led me to around 3 or 4 years ago start my own company, and that's where Royals and Rogues comes from. So because of kind of my industry experience and the path I've had is from growing from a freelancer to now kind of running my own creative agency, getting some larger clients, such as Counterplay Games, who is launching the new Godfall game on PS5. We have Intel as a client. We have who just did a big rebranding, and we've been running some events for them. We've done some work for AMD, for Ubisoft. So how you kind of ramp up and get those sort of clients, and hopefully I can give some of that insight, answer a lot of you guys' questions, and when we come to the Q&A, which is what I'm looking the most forward to.
Yeah. All right, so my name's Alan Plains. I've been working with Zach to help CG artists boost their careers and make it professionally. When I started out freelancing, I knew that I knew how to make CG art and 3D art I liked, but I didn't understand why some people get hired for work and get well paid for doing work and why others struggle. And I was one of the ones struggling. So I went on a long journey to figure this all out, to boost my career, and I started getting some breakthrough and some results. And since then, I've been really excited to share what I've been learning and help other artists that want to make it professionally and not be overworked to actually live a pretty good life as they pursue their passion. So today, what I'm excited to share with you guys is, first of all, the 2 most powerful forces to boost your career. After that, Alec and I will discuss how do you find your ideal CG clients? And once you found them, what do you do then? And after that, how to get past rejections or no answers from clients. How do you get over that feeling of fear that you're just kind of reaching out and nothing's happening? Then we'll do a quick overview of the CG Career Booster course. And then we'll do our favorite part, is the live Q&A, where we can answer your specific questions that you have about the industry, the business, or whatever you are struggling with and what you're going through. So I'm going to have a quick look at the chat. I see some new people coming in, which is fantastic. Hi, Bradley, Wihan Schultz, and John Araujo. Sorry for messing up your names. But yeah, let's get started. I'm excited.
Yeah, and if you see me jumping around here, it's because I'm trying to monitor the chat and monitor the live stream and everything, so I'm not trying to be rude. to Alan by not looking directly at the camera 24/7. But I'm gonna be moving around, so you're gonna see me doing a lot of this as we go.
All right. So, first thing, what are the two most powerful forces to boost your career? It's going to be pretty simple, but number one is your knowledge. So, your understanding on a specific subject, on art fundamentals, on, yeah, just like your software, your skills, and all those things. And number two is the execution of your knowledge. So, what you know how to make it a reality. So, think about, let's say if you only have a bunch of knowledge, if you know everything about art, all of your software tools and just everything possible, but you don't know how to execute consistently and get results, you're not going to move forward. Or the opposite. If you have number two, which is you have this amazing work ethic, you work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, you make art pieces every day, but you don't understand the fundamentals, you're not growing in your knowledge, you're not studying and learning, you won't grow. You'll just have a lot of the same level of work. So pretty basic, but why is it so hard to develop these two essentials? Someone asked how long this webinar is going to be. It's going to be about an hour and a half. And feel free to go if you need to, you'll have a replay so you can watch that again. So why is it hard to develop these two essential things? And usually the answer is fear and stress. It is uncomfortable to learn new things and to put your work out there, to execute, to try and fail over and over again. And usually the fears that we are facing is first of all, the main fear we have is we're afraid of not being good enough, and we're afraid of rejection, not being worthy of love. So to make this point of why these fears are so strong and so powerful and they can slow us down is think about, why is a big following on social media so appealing? If you can imagine yourself, like if you can close your eyes for a second and imagine yourself in a big studio, let's say a concert hall, and there's millions of people shouting your name, why does that so appealing? Why, even if you're shy, I guess, or just having like millions of likes, why is that so appealing? And the reason is it directly addresses those fears. If enough people love my work, if I get praised enough, I am worthy of love. I am good enough. And yeah, exactly. It makes us feel good enough and worthy of love.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting about that is on the addressing the fear note, it's really interesting because it's really hard to know as a creative where you are at, right? Because a lot of times, as far as measurement goes, you have like clear objective standards in a lot of industries, right? You can know if you're good as an engineer based, on how long the buildings stand, right? If it met the requirements, if it came in on the right budget. But as a creative, we don't have a lot of ways to validate, our claims to professionalism or expertise. So when it comes to this stuff, I think we're even more susceptible to it because, it's like, is my drawing better or as good or good enough? And we don't know. And one of the only ways to know is from social validation. So that's why we look to these things so often. And I think why they affect, it seems like they affect artists even more heavily, or things that aren't objective more heavily, right? Like I don't see a lot of people, like doctors, posting their like surgery results to Instagram to get a bunch of upvotes. Like they just know the person's better or not. But when it comes to, creative work, when it comes to modeling, when it comes to photography, when it comes to music, this is all subjective stuff that we don't really have clear parameters on. So getting this feedback gives us those like, oh, see, I am good. I did do what I needed to do, right? And that's why as a kid, we would always take our art and show it to our parents to try to get the feedback from them. Like, is this good? Is it not good? We don't know, right? And as humans, we want to know we're progressing. That's like one of the fundamental feelings that feels good to us. It gives us a huge dopamine release is when you're working out and you made you've accomplished something. Whenever you get a check off something off your to-do list, it feels like you're moving forward. But in art, it's really hard to know, and that's why this social pressure I think is so much heavier for artists than it is for a lot of other industries.
Yeah. Thanks for that. That's really true. So I know even for me, because of this social media thing and these like systems that all these portfolios like ArtStation, all that has. Sometimes it even stops you from posting your work because this is more what it looks like when you post some of your first work. And that can feel bad. That can feel bad that you're not getting any attention. No one's really letting you know where you're at and how you can keep on growing and moving forward. And that can keep you from moving forward. So those are the two fears that stop you the most from addressing the two PowerPoints. So what do we do about these fears? Number one is be aware. Just by being aware of this is already a big step forward, because it's kind of like, instead of just feeling bad, you start realizing, okay, it comes from these two fears. And now if you're aware of it, you target the thing, there's something you can do about it. So you can say to yourself simply, you can sit there in that moment and be like, okay, I'm feeling this fear and it's slowing me down or even stopping me from gaining more knowledge or doing more work and reaching my goals. Number two is refresh with truth. So you do have purpose and you do have value. So what I do is I write down some truths for myself. I ask people to let me know, people I love who are close to me, what they think about my work. I even sometimes call up guys I know and just like, can you remind me of what's true? Because these things do affect. So writing truths and focusing on what is real and addressing that. Number three is to not ignore or give in to the fear, but transform it into motivation. I'll admit I'm still working on this one a lot. I've gotten pretty good at being aware of like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. And I've gotten pretty good of reminding myself of what's true. But sometimes I stop there and I don't feel the motivation I can be feeling. So what I've begun doing is to let that fear come up, to actually feel it in my being, and to start transforming that into that motivation of, okay, the truth is, if I have this fear face to face and I do something that I'm afraid of, it becomes less and less powerful. So you just got to do it in a way.
Yeah, I would like to jump in if I can. What's funny about this part is this is always a part of like conferences and of seminars I have a hard time with, right? It all feels like very heady and all feels very like, okay, yeah, we're dealing with the emotions and woo-woo and stuff, but like this is actually really essential. You know, I'm a pretty practical person. We're gonna get into a lot of practical stuff pretty soon here with answering questions and then the next two sections, but this really is the base. And the higher up you kind of go into the ladder of professionalism and as you grow your career, the more you realize, just like with art, it's like, oh yeah, these fundamentals really are where it's at. And if I don't have these, you know, it's really easy to get to a place where you feel a huge amount of imposter syndrome and you're super insecure because you've never dealt with addressing these base realities of how we exist in the world. So, you know, I think definitely the be aware, refresh with truth. I think one of the other things with the truth is, you know, you have purpose and values, what we have written here. And that's a good reminder too, is when you're working on something, remind yourself of why you're creating it. You're not creating it for the response necessarily, right? You're not creating it for the likes. You have a greater cause, which I can't define for you, but you're going to have to really soul search and figure out, why am I making this? And let that be your guiding principle. And so when you find yourself, you know, giving in to the fear or not wanting to post something or not wanting to reach out to that client because you don't think you're good enough, you know, it's like, well, what's causing this? And is it something that's true? Is it something that's, you know, in alignment with, you know, it is actually disagreeing with my moral compass or my, it's not in my brand, right? It's not in my, like, who I am as a person. In that case, don't do it. But I think so often we can trick ourselves into being like, well, this isn't who I am and I shouldn't be doing this because, you know, I'm not really this person. Instead of asking ourselves, is this aligned? Because if it is aligned and we're just tricking ourselves, that's when you need to say, you know, shut up, you know, me, and I'm going to move on with this thing. But so often we haven't taken the time to really define, what is it I want to do? What is it I don't want to do? And then stick to that mantra, which kind of goes back to what you said at the beginning, which is like, you need to have your knowledge up and then you need to have your execution of that knowledge. So part of your knowledge is going to be defining what type of clients do I want to work for, what type of art do I want to make, and what type of things do I not want to make, and then execute on that decision of here's what I don't want to do, and here's what I do want to do. I'm gonna stick to this. That's gonna lead to a lot of success in your life, and you're gonna find yourself avoiding a lot of problems by defining those things and then sticking to them.
Yeah, very true. So I see a couple of questions already there. We're going to finish this point and then we'll address the 2 questions. So just so we don't interrupt too much.
They're leaving them for the end because they won't be able to make it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to write those down and then we'll get to those when we get to them.
Perfect. Sounds great. All right. So yeah, even for me, I've been dealing with my own limitations for many years. And every time I struggle to make progress, I feel like a nail is being pushed into my being that is just reinforcing that fear or that lie that I'm not good enough. And it's almost like when you encounter these walls or you post work and you compare and you see it's not where you want it to be, and there's other people that have it much better. It's like that voice in your head is telling you, see, you aren't going to make it. You're not good enough. And that's something that I keep on working through with these steps by putting it in front of me. So the example I'm going to give is like a mosquito, how in the middle of the night, like these fears and these lies, they come when you don't expect. So like in the middle of the night, we all know, I think, what it's like to hear that horrible sound of the mosquito flying next to your ear and how much stress that can bring. But once you turn on the lights and target that mosquito, it can become this little small thing that then you can do something about, which I usually like to kill it. And that's what doing these 3 steps does, is being aware is kind of like turning on the light, refreshed with truth is like targeting it, and transforming that into motivation is like killing it. So we can't kill these fears because we all want to be loved and we all want to be good enough and worthy, but we can address it and work past it with that truth. So how often do we have to do this? Every day. Because it's so ingrained in us as human beings, we have to practice this thing every day. I have to do it every day, and so do you. And the more you practice it, the more it becomes natural and the less strength the fear has over you. So that's the first more mindset type question to hopefully get you warmed up and started. And now the next question we're going to address is, how do you find your ideal CG clients? So what tools and processes, Alec and I are going to discuss this, can you use to effectively find and filter great clients and jobs? So starting now, it's going to be a little bit less of a presentation. Alec, you can even make it a little smaller. And we're just going to discuss how we go about doing this. So do you have any first ideas for us?
Yeah, dude, it's so hard for me not to just instantly answer these questions because they're so good. There's some really juicy questions already, and so I've written them down, and we'll get to them first thing once we do the Q&A, and that'll be good because that loads us up with some questions while you guys think of your own. We'll have a prompt here for your questions as well in a second. But as far as finding your ideal clients and your ideal CG clients in particular, there's a lot of tools and processes. The first thing you need to do is really sit down and ask yourself, who is my ideal client, right? Because that's going to provide a lot of information. So something that's really big for me, and this is what I do with clients, but it's really essential to do this with artists. In the creative world, again, everything is pretty subjective. So it makes this really hard to make confident decisions. We end up saying yes to everybody, and one day working on a children's, character for a YouTube channel, and the next day working on a 3D technical render for a, processor or something like that. And
I've been there.
Yeah, we've all been there. We've all been there, right? And I was doing all sorts of explainer videos as well as 3D and stuff, and I still do a lot of this stuff. But we needed to find who it is you want to work for, because a client that's good for me might be bad for someone else, and a client that's bad for me might be good for someone else. So let's say a client comes to me and they say, "Hey, we want some motion design of this, this, and that, and it's going to be a 30-second trailer." I'm like, "Oh, all day. We'll do that all day. That sounds great." But if someone comes to me and they say, "Hey, we need a whole bunch of modeling of characters for a video game that are going to be rigged and animated," that's not a good client for me, right? It's not what I do. It's not in my wheelhouse. But the temptation is just to say yes, to everybody. And if you don't have these parameters, if you don't take the subjective and make it objective by setting parameters, then it's going to be really hard for you to even know what a good client is. What is your ideal client? Well, if you don't have it defined, you'll never find them. So that's the first step, is to define your ideal client. Even anything to add to that, Alan?
Nope, that's totally it. So the way I like to define him, I'm actually gonna bring up something here as a this is the CG Career Booster course. So the way I do it myself is I like to create ideal client profiles.
Giving away all the secrets, dude. No one's gonna buy the course if you just give it away.
That's fine. So what I like to do is kind of get in the general area of first figuring out what I love to do and finding where that aligns with clients. So to find ideal clients, an ideal client is someone who knows they need your work and they value it. So there are plenty of people that know they need something, but they're not willing to pay that much for it. But if you find a client who knows it and values it, they'll be excited to work with you. So I actually start by defining made up people based on my research of different companies. And I just write down like their name, where they're from, their age, their occupation. So what story do they have? What life events brought them to where they are? What is driving them? So what goals are they pursuing and are wanting to invest in? If you know what goals they're pursuing, it's easier to target why they would hire you. It's so clear. Once you know exactly what your client or employer wants, it's easy to say yes or no. So if your client, if you're a CG artist, maybe working in the game industry, and you specialize in environments, and you create a profile for someone who's maybe an art director who needs specific kind of environment artists, and they need your skill set, and you're able to answer that, it just goes a long way.
Right. Yeah.
So then
think about this in terms of your own life. It's like, when do you purchase? It's like, if someone comes to you with a job and tries to sell to you, and you're not looking to buy that thing, you just say no, right? If someone knocks on your door and is saying like, "Hey, I'm here to fix a toilet. Do you have a broken toilet?" and you don't have one, it's like, no. Why would I do that? Versus if you happen to have whatever that exact problem is, and you get served an ad saying, "Hey, need a toilet fixed?" and you're like flooding in the background, yes, like you don't care. The first one that comes up, you're just going to say yes to. So it's exactly that. It's matching your solution with the problem that you're solving. And that's, once again, by defining who your ideal client is like, part of it's going to be defined by who you are. Like I said, like, I'm not chasing clients that want, rigged characters for video games. I'm pursuing clients that want full all-in-one motion design pieces. So that's going to be a difference in who you're following. So if I go and try to sell to people that don't match up with that, it's never going to work.
Yeah. And that's why it's so powerful. You can just ask. It's annoying. Yeah, imagine if there's a company out there that would just ask you, what are you struggling with the most right now, and how can we help you? And listens to you. That's a big deal, because mostly what we're used to is getting ads or messages that are just like, buy this, buy this, buy this. And it doesn't feel like they care about your goals. And that's why it's so powerful if you care about your client's goals and are able to answer their goals, because they're already thinking about how can they do X thing. And if you say, I can do that for you, their next question is how much? Because that's it. It's like, boom, you answered my question. How much do you charge? Because I want that. So that's what I do. I, as you see here, I find out what their motivators are, what's driving them, and then the main reasons they would hire you. So that's how I kind of define a profile. And then as I go and search different websites, like here's a good one, studiohog.com, that has animation, VFX, and game jobs. Or let's see, onelightvfx.com, which is just a directory of different countries and different companies there. And I research the different people there, and I try and find out, what are they looking for? There's podcasts out there. There's Alec himself is at times looking to hire people, and he can share it. You can simply ask him, hey, what are you struggling with, and how can I learn from you? So that's how I go about finding my ideal clients, is first defining them and then going and search them. It's simple. It's like to make this super simple. If you're gonna go fishing, what's the first thing you need to know? What kind of fish? What oceans do they swim in? What kind of bait do you use to catch them? And those are the kind of questions you want to be answering. Where is my client? Where is my client looking for people? And how can I find them there? And after that, it becomes much easier. Do you have anything to add to that, Alec?
Sorry, I'm responding to chat here. I just saw that it looks like Tarby, or let's see, I gotta get this right.
He shared the stream with
20
yeah.
or 82 has shared the stream with all of his classmates, and we really appreciate it. Yeah, if you have someone that wants to participate in the Q&A, it's never too late to join. I think it's gonna be great. Feel free to share it with all your friends. And surprise, there's gonna be a cool special thing if you stick to the end. So stick around, and there's gonna be some awesome deals for you. All right. Yeah, you just asked me if there's anything to add to find your ideal client. So yeah, that's a big step of it, is figuring out who they are. Like once you define who they are, right, that's going to allow you to start looking where they might be. It's like, are they in coffee shops? Are they in big cities? Are they in small towns?
How much money do they have?
Right, exactly.
Do they have enough?
Until you define it, you don't even know anything. So you define it, and then once you define it, then like you said, it's like, okay, who meets my criteria now? Like where are these people? Where do they exist? And if you notice, a lot of the most successful businesses that you shop at do this. They first, like, look at all the Instagram ads. They're like hyper targeted, right? It's like, we are targeting, vegans that don't like to cook and are in a rush, right? And it's like a vegan food shipping service. And it's like, or we're targeting, the kit bash is a great example, right? It's like VFX artists that don't want to model but want to get quick renders out to get to clients. So it's like so on and so forth. You're going to find like very particular things. They're not going to advertise, right? Kit bash isn't going to be advertising to large production studios that have a staff that are going to, just make everything themselves. So on your end, it's the same thing. It's figure out who they are. Once you figure out who they are, figure out where they are. And then once you figure out where they are, it's like, okay, what do I need to provide to them, right? What problems are they having, and how can I be of help? So that's exactly the right steps.
And the absolute ideal is when their problems match what you're passionate about. Then it's like instant click, which is exactly what I actually did with this course. Is I'm trying to find you guys who have problems that I'm excited to talk about and share about. So that's exactly how we do that.
So meta.
All right. So next question. Once you've found your ideal client or job, then what? How do you reach out to them and create a good impression? So let's see. Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
I think you can go first. You'll probably have some good foundation, and I can expound upon that.
All right. So let's say you found that you've identified your client and you found them. You've done your research and you understand what their problems are. Usually what I do is it's better what not to do. So what I don't do is I go straight for asking for something. And the way I like to compare this to is dating. So in the case of guys, if you see a girl you like, it would be weird to walk up and be like, hey, I like you. Will you marry me? That'd be like, whoa, that's a huge commitment. But what's more effective is, hey, I'd be interested in getting to know you. I think we might be able to start a good relationship, which is way less pressure. So that's what we do with clients is you can send an email, you can send a video message of you scrolling through their website and saying like you love their stuff. You can contact someone in the company, maybe not the top person who can hire you, but another artist, and say, I would love to learn more about this company, about this job, and about what you're doing. You can even say, I'm not trying to sell anything right now. I'm just here to learn about what your struggles are and what you're going through. And that's how you can start reaching out and building business relationships, because the best business relationships are the long-lasting ones that they hire you multiple times. And like good marriages or dating relationships, that are built to be long lasting, it starts with that kind of caring about each other and wanting to understand what are your goals? So that's how you start the conversation. Alec, if you want to go more specific.
Yeah. So there's a few. I think everything you said is correct. It is all about relationships. We're humans. We're relational beings, and so everything that we do is going to be based around relationships. Our business, all these things. It's all about who knows you and who you know. When it comes to specifically getting your first couple of clients, it is going to go slow. That's something I want everyone to kind of understand is,
Slow is good.
yeah, it's not Tinder, right? And you don't want it to be Tinder because what that ends up being is low quality but frequent relationships. And so that's what you get when you do Fiverr or freelancer.com or something like that. What you're getting is
Upwork.
Upwork, yes. You're getting a bunch of low quality, not very deep relationships that are one-offs that, neither of you really, you're just both in it for the money, right? In the case of,
I mean, you can find good ones, but it is a challenge.
It's just like you can find great people on Tinder, but it's going to take work. So it's going to go slow, and that's how relationships should be. So when it comes to finding your ideal clients, it's like chances are they're not going to fall out of the sky. Chances are it's going to be a slow process to get to where you want to be. A lot of times I'll court a client for a few months, and also here's the other thing. People don't make big decisions quickly, right? Like if you're going to buy a pair of socks, yeah, you'll walk to the store and just buy a pair of socks. So if you have a low value, if you don't value if the client doesn't value your work very high, then they're not going to pay a lot for it, which means that, yeah, you'll get a quick job. If they do value it highly, let's say you want to charge someone, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 for a CG piece or a project, then that means that it's going to go up. Just like if you in your own life were going to spend that money, right? You don't make a decision on, where to invest to go to school for 4 years lightly. You don't make the decision on buying a car or even a new PC lightly. I spend a good at least week researching and comparing and contrasting and looking at all the specs before I buy any new piece of equipment, my camera, my monitor. And the more expensive that is, the more I'm going to be taking my time to do that. So don't be surprised if it takes a while. You're going to have to sit there and talk, and large projects take a long time to get done. The cool part...
that doesn't mean... Oh, can I interject something
Sure.
there real quick? That doesn't mean it's bad to take work in the meantime as you're building the solid relationships. In a way, it's like it's okay to work at a minimum wage, low paying job. Meanwhile, you're building these solid relationships as you're developing these long-term business relationships and developing your career. So it's not necessarily bad, but it's good to know where you're at, that there are these different levels.
Yes, yeah, correct. And I think that one of my big keys for anyone that wants to start like an actual agency like I did, I don't think it's for everybody. I don't think everyone should do it. I think most people should, if you love creating work, you should stay as a creative until you start realizing you'd rather manage or something. But one of the things I recommend is get another job, like get a full-time job that just pays your career, pays off your bills, so you don't freak out while you're building this other thing, and just build it real slow and steady. As far as freelancing goes, the hardest thing is getting to one, getting to your first client, getting that first big project. Once you get that, and if you have a good relationship, the nice part is it's going to be pretty difficult for that client to just go on to someone else, right? Because it's like, if I'm going to invest this much money and I want to know it's going to work, and this guy did it well and it worked, they're going to come back to you, right? As long as you didn't completely screw up the project or end the relationship or burn any bridges. And that's what I've found is even in maybe you might not even be the perfect fit, but they're going to come to you for your expertise in choosing someone else, right? And that's a whole nother step where you're managing projects for other people. But, that's something that that's going to take time to build, and it's okay that it takes time to build. In the meantime, you can work on other things. But it's really good to invest in that long-term relationship that's going to keep giving back to you, but it's not going to be fast. As far as how to reach out, you mentioned reaching out with a short video or, an email or something like that. That's just fine. I think the number one thing to do is not be too forward with the selling. I think you reach out and you just say, hey, I would love to have a conversation. Just try to get in the room. This is the same thing that your resume is going to do, or your demo reel, or any of these other things. They don't get you the job. All they do is get you a conversation. And the goal is to get to the conversation that then it's on you to communicate clearly and well what it is you do, and mostly to listen to what their problems are and look for how you can solve those problems. That's going to land you the job. But the biggest thing is just getting in the door.
Clients love it if first you seek to understand the problem before offering a solution.
Right. If you want to win every interview you ever do, here's the tip, okay? If you're looking for any full-time job, any freelance job too, all you do is go, what are you looking to solve? What are the problems you're looking to solve with this position, by filling this position? And they're going to tell you. It works like magic. It's really crazy, right? So you say, what problems are you looking to solve? And they go, well, we're hoping to do this, we're hoping to do that, we're hoping to do this. And then all you have to do is go, well, that's funny. I do all those things, right? That's all you have to do, and you'll win like every job. It's worked for me 100% of the time. It's really hilarious to watch it happen. And it feels weird because you're like, I can just ask them what their problems are, and then they just tell me, and then I just tell them back their problems, but how I solve them. And that's the whole thing. Yep. And it's like, taking the time to listen. But most people just go in and they go, here's my portfolio, here's what I do, look at all the work I've done. And then they're like, okay, well, and then they start asking you, well, have you ever done this? Like, what about that? Like,
well, and when you ask, they're telling you how you can show them your work to address that.
Right.
Because I've had that. I've had people tell me everything they do, and I'm like, I don't care. But if you ask first, and it's like, I care about this, and it's like, cool, I have this one project that answers that.
Like, so imagine walking to a restaurant, right? And the waiter comes up and they go, okay, here's our menu. We have this food, we have this food. We also have a gluten-free option. We have this. And it's like, what do you do? Stop. Just ask me what I want. Ask me what is, like, and they're so proud, but you're so proud of your work, right? It's like you want to show it off. Stop. Just ask me, what is it I'm interested in? What do you feel like today? And if I don't know, well, then you can be like, well, ask a couple more questions. You don't just start prescribing. Well, I really like this. Like, you don't know if they're allergic to fish. You don't. So instead, ask again. Let's like, well, what is it that you feel like today? What typically do you go for when you're at a restaurant like ours? And well, typically I go for a hamburger, but I'm feeling a little adventurous today. It's like, okay, how adventurous? Well, not too adventurous. I mean, I don't like spicy food or anything like that. It's like, okay, well, how about instead of just the standard hamburger, you can get our specialty hamburger with bacon and egg on the top? And they're like, oh, that's kind of adventurous, but not too adventurous. That sounds great, right? Then you can start answering those questions once you have enough. Once you actually have the questions, right? Once you've actually asked them.
Yeah, exactly. I see some new questions from Evolution and Bradley. We'll get to those. Excited to get to those. It's hard not to want to jump in now, as Alex says. All right, so let's move forward so we can get to the Q&A. This is a big one. How do you push through fear, for rejection and fear? So how do you know if your method of reaching out is working meanwhile you're doing it? I'll go ahead and start with that. I think I'll go back to what I said before is, first of all, is addressing the fact that you're feeling that fear, that you're reaching out to clients, you're sending your work, you're asking questions. And that's what's hard about sending emails and sending messages, is sometimes you don't get answers. And it can address that fear, like, oh, shoot, I'm not good enough. They hate me, da-da-da. And instead of completing, the first thing is, instead of answering that yourself in your head, is to try and address it as realistically as possible. So recently I sent out an email to where almost no one answered at the beginning. And that fear came up. I started feeling like, crap, I'm not good enough. They don't care, whatever. And I thought, actually, no, let me do some research. Why isn't this email working? And the more I can take the failure off of my identity and put it on almost like an experiment, right? Like if you're experimenting with chemicals and it doesn't work, and you don't say, oh no, I'm a failure. You say, oh, that didn't work. What can I change? What can I do differently that will work? How can I increase my knowledge and my execution to get the results that I'm looking for? And that's a good way as well, actually, when you're reaching out, instead of reaching out with the mindset of, I want approval as a human being or as an artist, it's reaching out because I want to help this client and be hired by them. If you don't get the result, what do I need to change? And once you start thinking and changing that mindset, and you have to do it over and over, because it's always the first feeling is you're a failure, and you have to be like, nope, change. Then it becomes easier and easier to reach out. And good way to do it is also practice in safety. So if you want to learn how to fly a military jet plane. Should your first thing to do is jump on the military jet plane and just go and drive off? No, you'll probably crash and burn and hurt people along the way. So think of what's the safest way for me to practice these things and learn. Maybe it's to learn about aviation. Maybe it's flying a little remote control airplane and those different things. So that's a good way also to like, don't go after this call and go email Blizzard and then feel terrible because they didn't answer. Go email someone, email me, email Alec and ask questions like, oh, I'm struggling with this. What do you think I can grow in? Go spam Alec, everybody right now. But yeah, that's what I have to say about pushing through that rejection and fear. What would you say, Alec?
Yeah, I think those are fantastic tips. I think it's definitely the practice one. I remember I sent an email to Blizzard as soon as they had a job show up. I just he's either just quit my first job or is in between jobs. I can't remember. And I was like, I'm going to email them. And I just like looking back at my head, Alan, at that email, I'm like, I did everything wrong. It was just like, I'm a huge fan. I love your work. Like, I want to work for you. Hire me, and it was nothing about like, here's what I have to offer. And, here's 3 things that you guys asked for that how I address them. And, obviously, at the time, my work wasn't anywhere near as good or good enough to work there anyway. And I had no contacts. I didn't have anyone there. I feel like now I could probably get a job at Blizzard. I could probably point at my work and then also say, hey, I know this guy, and that guy that are all ex-Blizzard employees that could give me a recommendation. As long as they didn't burn any bridges when they left. I don't think they did. It's like, you start seeing like at first it's all like, it's like this dark void. It's like in, I don't know if anyone played like Ages of Empires or StarCraft, where you have like the fog of war, where you can't see what's beyond, and so everything's a mystery. It's like, well, where did that come from, and how is it that people get these jobs and I can't get them? And the more experience you get, the more you start looking, you're like, oh, that's how that works. So I think it's another thing for getting rid of the fear is, start learning about how. Start augmenting your learning, right? Right now, a lot of artists are focusing on improving their art, as you should, right? They're learning lighting and quality of lighting and shadows and trying to figure out, technical stuff. And that's all very exciting. And that's all we want to do, right? As soon as there's a new, plugin or a new feature release, we just want to mess with it all day. And that's fantastic. But you have to start treating your business side the same way. You just have to start learning, okay, well, how does that work? How do I get new clients? And Alan and I did something a little while back where it's not released yet, but we broke down how we got like our first big client. And one of the things that was funny is I used to be upset about it because I thought it was all luck. I was just like, I just got lucky. But then the more I analyzed it and broke it down, it wasn't really just luck. It was a number of factors that actually led to it being like, well, of course they'd hire me. It's like I had a recommendation from someone that worked at the company. I'd proven I could do the work by doing work for that person previously. Like there's all these things. It's like, oh, you can actually create these things. You can create your own luck if you know how it works. There's something I'm going to say a lot if you eventually follow me on my YouTube channel or something else, but there's no such thing as luck or random. It's just unknown factors. When you have dice in your hand and you roll the dice, people say, oh, it's luck. No, it's not. It's physics. Okay? If you could calculate the angle that the dice are in your hand and the force that it leaves, you would know every time where they fall. This is what loaded dice do, right? They put a certain weight on one side and now they always fall in the same way. It's physics. It's not luck. So if you could calculate that out, then you could figure out how to do that every time. And this is what the best sports players do. It's like, is hitting a home run a luck? It's like, no. They know what angle to hit it at. They know how forceful they need to do. They need to know what speed it's coming at. Like all these things, they can calculate it out. Now, the problem is a lot of times it's just intuitive. A lot of times people don't know how to reverse engineer their success. But as you start gaining it, start doing that, start reverse engineering. Well, what made this look so good? What made this work so well with my art? And then when it comes to your career, it's like, why did this person hire me? And you can even ask them. Like, if a project goes well, and this is part of Alan's course, we break down how to do this. But at the end of a project, reach out and be like, so what went right? Why was I the successful candidate? What was it that made me unique and different? And then remember that, write that down and try to double down on it. A lot of times I get told, well, frankly, we just kind of felt like you were the most professional outlet. Like we talked to a lot of people and some of them were kind of couldn't show their systems. They didn't have, it was just kind of like, oh, we play it by ear. And I was able to point at, like, here's the 5 steps we're going to take that's going to guarantee success for this project. So, that knowing that's a value of the client to the client, write it down. There's other things I've done that I thought were really valuable, and the clients told me, like, yeah, that seemed like it was more for you than it was for me. And I was like, okay, cool. I know not to push that as hard next time.
All right. Good answers. Yeah, sounds good to me.
Good answers. We did good.
Pat yourself on the back. This is going good. All right, so let's move on. That's the last question. We can give you a quick quick overview of the CG Career Booster course, and then we can move to our favorite part, which is a Q&A, and engage more with everyone in the chat. So I don't know if you know, but this free course is in celebration of the CG Career Booster course, and it's on early bird 15% discount till November 10th. At 12, we'll cancel that discount. And it's set up in 2 parts. Part 1 is we start with mindset, like this call, and we start with busting lies about the creative business. Then we move on to talk about what great clients are looking for. IPA, which is a simple and powerful way of working. So it's investigate, plan, and act, and how to do that consistently. How to set and achieve powerful goals for your career. And then we talk about the overview of the 5 steps your clients take to book you. So these are the 5 steps, and part 2 is all about addressing each step individually. So uncovering your clients' real problems, showing them the solution, negotiating great deals, working on the project, and nailing the ending and delivering the work. And then you do that over and over and keep on growing your career. So talked about that. We can go over that. And what's coming soon to the course is we're going to talk about more about choosing your next CG portfolio piece and how to create that, and how fun, actually, when you're having fun while working, how powerful that is for your career. And I have to reinforce that over and over again, to be having fun as I'm working. So what's special about this, the course link is also in the video description in case you're curious about that. What's exclusive to this call is that to reward those of you who are actually maybe interested in the course, you get an exclusive discount. If you go to the checkout page, you get a 25% discount instead of 15 using the code live session. So that discount will also end on November 10th. And yeah, if you're enjoying the course, hopefully this is a good reward for you as you're investing in yourself and growing in your career. So quick reminder before we go to the Q&A is to write down everything you're learning. Write it down and already write down how you're going to apply it. It's all fresh in your head. Just write it. Think, okay, how am I going to make this work for me? I'm even getting ideas listening to Alec about how we can continue moving forward. All right, Q&A. Let's do it.
So this is our favorite part, but before we start, I have to apologize. I've been trying to mute myself this whole time every time I take a sip of water or something, but I realize that on the stream it's probably still going through. So I apologize. You guys have heard weird noises on my side.
I haven't heard anything, so
that's good. Perfect.
I'm good. All right, so Q&A. My suggestion for your question, so you get the best answer possible, is to think, what can you ask Alec and I right now that will have the most positive impact on your career? So think about it, and we're going to start answering questions for about another 30, 40 minutes.
I got some written down, so while people write new ones.
Actually, I'm going to bring the chat and go up to the first one, but that's good.
That's fine too. So while you bring up the chat and get all this going.
Make that bigger so we can all see that.
So the first one is from, I believe it's Golistan, I believe. I'm going to butcher everyone's names. I'm so sorry. And he says, essentially what he wants to know is, can he hire his son for 3D work as a freelancer? So his question was that he doesn't have the skills that his son has. Okay, I'm 63 years young and have a teenage son under legal work age to do freelance work, who is much better than me. Can I get a project for him and let him do the job, and then I give it back to the client? So, I have a take on this. Alan, I don't know if you have a take on this.
I'm curious what your take is.
Okay, so the first is a disclaimer, right? Which is, I don't know what country you're in. I don't know what the work laws are. Um, as far as child labor laws and everything like that. The fact is, as parents, we all have our kids work for us. I don't have any kids, but when I was a kid, I mowed lawns for my dad, all this other stuff. So, mostly the laws are there to keep abuse from happening. So long as you're not abusing your kid by making them work, I don't see a major moral issue with it. I doubt the laws are all that strict. I'm not sure how young the son is or how long the wait's going to be. But essentially, it's just like subcontracting. Is essentially is how I see this. Can I subcontract out a family member? And my answer is like, yeah. I don't see any problem. What most clients are concerned with is the result. Like, can you get them the result that they want? Can you get them what they need? And if you run yourself as you view yourself as an agency, and your son is a part of the agency or a family business, yeah, sure. I mean, don't lie and say like, I've done everything myself and all this other stuff. But, if you're just clear about it, that, hey, I run a family business is how I would put it. We're a family creative agency. I do some of the negotiation. I have different family members that help out, and we get really good work. Family businesses are the heart of America, and anyone that owns a family business, almost any country, knows your kids end up doing a lot of the work. They end up washing dishes, they end up sweeping floors. I don't view this as any different. Actually some countries have certain laws for family businesses. So like farmers, for instance, in the US, you're allowed to start working at like 12 or 14. You're allowed to drive tractors at like 12 and 14. It's crazy, but they just allow, it's a lot looser because they know that's how that has to operate. They know you don't have enough hands.
I've handed off projects to my wife that I've gotten through motion graphics. So I guess I'd be curious if it's legal to have him as an intern or something like that.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's a little weird to me is under legal work age to do freelance work. So I'm not exactly sure legally what that looks like. But I would just take the work. I would just do it, and then you can sit with him on the computer. I'd consider that fan. He's in the USA. Yeah. Okay, so how old is your son, if you don't mind sharing? You need to share a general age, like he's like under the age of 18. I don't see an issue with that at all if he's a teenager. That'd be my guess.
All right. So meanwhile, he answers that. Let's see the next question.
So the next one I have is they want to know. This one. Yes, no, I thought there's one above that about is Blender good enough for architectural work? I believe is the next one.
That's above that.
Yes.
Sorry, we skipped you. Absolute.
Yeah, absolute.
So answer is yes. You can make work that competes. Corona is quite good for architectural. V-Ray as well. Dedicated renderers are going to be a little better and easier to use. But if you check out Lek and Chocofer, he has great tutorials on architectural render in Blender. Eevee is getting really good, so the answer is you can.
100%.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a little more challenging, but it's free, and that's always a big deal for me. And it's totally possible.
Yeah. Plus, you also have things like Pexels? I don't remember the name of it. There's a bunch of resources out there to get like hyper scanned stuff into Blender, and it works super well. So I think that's a pretty easy one to answer.
His son is 14, by the way.
14.
So.
Dude, some of these kids that are coming up right now that have like grown up with computers their whole lives are like insane. There's some of these Minecraft kids. I think Minecraft is going to be like Star Wars. Where like I got started because of Star Wars, and Lord of the Rings is like a big inspiration for you. It's like, oh, that's why I want to. You have the Lord of the Rings thing right behind you. It's like that was our start, and for people older than us, it was like a lot of like anime and like the Jurassic Park and stuff. And then like now it's like Minecraft. All these kids are learning the code, learning to design characters and get into 3D and make short film machinimas and stuff. Like it's going to be the big inspiration. So anyways, 14. There's kids with YouTube channels that are 14 that are making bank. So I don't see any problem with that at all. And their parents just manage. Yeah. You're just their guardian, right? So it's up to you to manage their time and make sure they're not, being overused and stuff. I don't see any problem at all with having a 14-year-old get some work. If they were like 9 or something, though. I'd be like, eh. And they're gonna get old fast. Like you're gonna do like 3 projects in a year, and then the next year they're gonna be 15, and then before you know it, they're gonna be out. But there's all sorts of work of young people that are talented, especially creatives, doing photography and getting paid, doing like I said, YouTube channels. They're doing reviews, backpack reviews, shoe reviews, and they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't see any problem with that at all.
All right.
Not to mention child
Next
actors.
question. Yeah, there's child actors. That's
Yeah.
yeah. There's yeah. All right. So Tushar Ganesh, he asks, how do you know how to set a bill amount for a given work? Is it per hour or by complexity or by one's experience
Come
in a given
back
field?
on Monday and we'll have a whole session dedicated to this. But seriously,
Tomorrow.
is it tomorrow?
Oh no,
Session?
that's Monday.
That's
It's
Monday's
Monday.
Monday session.
No, it's Monday.
Yeah, come back on Monday. We'll have a whole thing dedicated to this. But um, I do think one way to know your price is I do think it's an evolution. I'm going to say something slightly different than a lot of people say. It's like I do think you should start hourly, figure that out, then build it up once you figure out kind of how your hourly works. And then you move up from there. The number one way to price anything, though, is to figure out how much you need to live, right? So it's like add up your expenses, add up what your cash flow is going out. So it's like, okay, I need to make at least X amount a month, and then look at how long the project's going to take. Now, a lot of times you're not going to know that by the start, but you can ask the client, oh, how long do you think? What are you looking at? And then you have to charge. You're not allowed to charge under what you need to live, okay? You're not allowed to. So if it's a month-long project,
only in special cases, but yeah,
you're not allowed to. If it's a month-long project and it's gonna cost you, let's say your expenses are $1,500 or something like that equivalent, then you have to charge at least, I would say, $2,000, right? Because you also need profit. You can't just make you can't just pay off all your bills. That's not making you're just keeping from starving. You need about that chunk of profit, which should be about a quarter, I would say, of the project.
25%.
25% should be profit. You can work that way up or a little bit down, depending, but you should have some type of profit. And you can say this to clients. Like I do this all the time. I just go, look, I can't make this for that amount. It doesn't make any sense. I'll lose money on it. So I need to charge you this much. Plus, I have to make a profit. I have to be able to pay unexpected costs. I have to be able to reinvest that into my company to buy new hardware, to buy new software for next month. So that's where you're going to start. You're going to price out what it costs for you to live. You don't have to be super exact, but get a good round number and then charge that plus 25%. And then you can do that as hourly, or you can do that as whatever you want, a project, however you want to break that down.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And something you can also do is start working towards your ideal work situation. So something I like to recommend is sit there and think about my ideal work day that I would absolutely love. What tools am I using? What desk am I working on? What computer? What projects? And make it as specific as you can. Okay, I want to buy this in the future, have this big of an office, add up the costs and be like, how can I work towards that little by little? And the third thing is, what's the value of the project? So how much is, if a client is going to sell a product and your influence, your commercial, your work helps them sell $100,000 over a month, let's say, how much is a percentage of that that's reasonable for the client to invest for that result? So if you say 15%, that's $15,000. And then that could be the value. That's a much harder sell. So it's always good to start first hourly, look at the market. What are other freelancers at your skill level charging? And once you know that, start there. And as you learn more about business, look at more of the value for the client.
The stepping stones for me, and you guys can write this down, is hourly just until you know on average how many hours a project takes. So someone says I have a 30-second video, I have a 1-minute video, I have a 2-minute video, and you don't know really how long it's going to take you to do what the work is. Charge hourly until you get a solid idea. And then once you have a good idea, okay, pretty much a 30-second video takes me 2 weeks, and it's going to take me 80 hours, right? Because it's 2 weeks. So now that you know that, then you can start charging a project rate, which is what I highly recommend going to next, or a day rate at the very least. And then once you start charging your project rate, it's like, okay, I know how long 2 weeks is. I know that it's 40 hours, so I can calculate out what the cost of that would be hourly. And then I'm going to include a buffer, right? I'm going to include a safety net for myself in case things go wrong, in case they go long, in case I have to buy assets or something like that. You want that safety net. And then I'm going to, on top of that safety net, include profit. And then once you have that, then you can start doing value-based pricing, which is what Alan's talking about at the end there, which is what is the value I'm providing? So I'm no longer basing the cost off of the services I'm providing. It's now off of what it is the benefit they're getting. It's going to be impossible to do that on small projects. If you have a small client that doesn't have a lot of money, it's not that valuable to them. They're like, sure, I'll make like, I'm a small coffee shop, let's say, and you're making a logo for them or whatever. It's like, or a 3D sign that they're going to put out in their lobby. It's like, I don't know, dude. I don't think this is going to make me sell a whole lot of coffees. It's not very valuable. But if you're doing that for someone like Starbucks that has millions of customers, and even like a 1% growth in profits means millions of dollars, then yeah, that's going to be worth a lot more. So that's going to be the hardest one to do, and I don't recommend starting there. I recommend starting out, figuring out how much it costs, and moving your way up.
Yeah, baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Another one I had is that's how to price works, is how to make money while learning. Do you have that one?
How would one start earning on a casual basis while your skills are developing? All right.
This is Evolution Fevo Living. I don't know how to say this.
Evolution of Evolving.
Oh, Evolution of Evolving. That makes more sense. It's like reading license plates sometimes.
Yeah. How do you start earning on a casual basis while your skills are developing? I mean, part-time job is fine. Working for someone for less money, just like I delivered pizzas at night. Meanwhile, I started my freelance business, and I ate lots of pizza. Pizza was fantastic. So there's many ways. Can sell a product. I don't know. There's a lot. There's so many ways. It's hard to answer that specifically unless, Alec, you have a good idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways. One of the best ones is, depending on where you're learning. If you're learning at like a school, start tutoring. Like start teaching what you're learning, and then that's going to double down on this kind of effect. And you also start being seen as like an expert in this. So what I did is, when I was in college, I was helping everyone fix their computers, their hard drives, decorrupt footage and stuff like that. And the computer lab, meaning the room with all the servers and everything in it, the techs there. So essentially, like, the IT department recognized I was doing that and hired me, right? I was like, hey, and if you have a position, I'd love to help. And they're like, sure, you're already doing this. Like, why don't we just hire you to do it? So that was a great way for me to start making some money while also learning. And if you think about it more creatively like that, like not necessarily getting hired to do student work, instead look at it as what can I use around what I'm doing to get paid. I did a lot of tutoring. People would hire me to teach them editing, and that was a great way to go about it as well. So find work adjacent things that are similar to what you're doing, or that augment what you're doing to help out. You could also go work for, this is iffy, but you can work for a company that you think needs the services you provide, like, they might need some video editing, they might need some CG work eventually, but they're not offering that job right now. Go take a different job there, take a janitorial job, take a whatever, and work your way up. There's countless stories of people that have started in the mailroom, at ILM, at big companies, and then just on the background was working, and then when they had the opportunity to show their work, they would show it. Or if there was a project and they said, oh crap, so-and-so is sick, do we know anyone that knows this? And you're just like, I do. And they're like, what do you mean? You're the garbage guy. It's like, yeah, well, I know it. So that's where those opportunities come from, is working at some place that you think is going to need your services, and then you can work in another position at that company while you build up to that. Or like Alan said, just find something completely unrelated. It's totally okay to get paid we need people to deliver pizzas. We need people to serve coffee. We need people to do all sorts of things that aren't, the most luxurious things, but is a good place to be while you build up your portfolio.
Yeah. And I know with COVID, it's really hard right now. That's the main challenge.
That is true.
As things are evolving, but it's also an opportunity because businesses right now are looking for creative solutions and video editing and creative work to stand out on the internet.
Yeah, there's been more demand for video stuff than ever. That's true.
So if you're learning 3D, maybe learn video editing real quick, and which also increases your 3D skills anyways. And if you know 3D, video editing is easier, honestly, to certain levels. Now all the video editors are going to hate me.
How dare you.
But it is. It's more simpler in some ways, but it's also depth and cutting and timing and all those things. But learn skills that are needed right now. Get jobs in the meantime, because it's a big opportunity, because all businesses are scrambling to figure out how do we adapt to the world situation all over the world. and they need you. They need your creative mind. They need your skills. So
That is actually another good thing is you know, I reached out to somebody because they had like a little 3D like live marmoset viewer book, right, that they had made, and I reached out to them because there was a company I knew that makes hand done books, and they needed to be able to digitally show the book because clients couldn't come in person anymore. And so having a 3D model of that is really valuable for a lot of people. So if you can learn something that looks like it's in demand. So like learn like a live 3D in browser application, whether it's Marmoset or something else, and then be like, hey, I can reach out to someone that has a physical product that now can't show it anymore. So that's another way to make some money.
yeah. So Drangafrix from his name is Edgar from Uganda. Hello, Edgar. Thanks for being here. This is awesome. So you're finishing a degree in information technology. That's great. You have a passion for CG, but you're confused. That's also good. Confusion is good. It means you want to learn. When we're confused, we go, why doesn't this work? So that's a good emotion. Do I have to be an artist or have an artistic background to do CG?
I love this question. I love this question so much.
No, there's many. I was looking at a making of a Pixar movie. If you know who Pixar are, they did Toy Story and all those. And one guy was an Olympic athlete who just got injured and moved into animation. So no, there's so much good information out there. There's the CG career, the Blender Launchpad that we have here at CG Boost. There's all kinds of stuff for you to learn for free. There's on YouTube so much stuff. You don't need an artistic background.
Yeah, I don't think you need artistic background. Also, I find that technical artists are in higher demand often, and can be more valuable. A lot of artists will not do the hard work of learning something like a Houdini or learning some coding. Or learning, how to do proper sims, the mathematics it takes, because they don't want to deal with that. They just want to be free to express themselves and all this other stuff. And they miss out. They miss out on a lot of really cool stuff and a lot of really advanced stuff. The white paper stuff, the stuff that all the artists like end up using, is all made by nerds. It's all made by the white paper people. 2 Minute Papers is a fantastic YouTube channel that has like, here's the future of this or that other technology that's coming down the line. And it's all made by people that are doing math and doing have more of a technology degree. So I 100% think that you could do some really cool stuff. You're going to be probably building the engines that let the creative people do their creative work. That all needs to be done by people with technology backgrounds, with coding backgrounds. So, and even After Effects and stuff, if you know Python or Java or in Cinema 4D, if you know Espresso, you're going to be like so much more ahead of the curve when it comes to creating really great looking work. And then from there, it's just a matter of like either getting some artistic fundamentals. Like I don't think this like engineer versus artist is so binary as we like to think it is. You can learn some of the principles of like creativity and artistic work, or what you can do is just find a director. Find someone that's a creative director, and that's what I do oftentimes. I hire people that are one of the people that regularly works with us does all the documentation for Redshift. So he's a very technical engineer type guy, and he tells me all the time, like, just tell me how you want it to look, and I'll just match it. Like, he doesn't want to think of, well, what's a cool lighting and what angle and what's it. So I just give him as much reference as possible and go like recreate this, and he does a fantastic job. But he doesn't enjoy, being the art director. He just wants to execute. So, and I love that. That's incredibly valuable.
Awesome. All right. So next question. We have a dab. Very good.
Son's 14. Arts all the time. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, child actors. Yep. I think it's similar to what we said.
So thanks everyone for being here. This is so cool to have you guys be involved. Mikey Ace says, thank you for the webinar. I'm currently studying the Unity for Professionals 3D Artist certification. Do clients and companies care about certifications, or do they only care about portfolios? As far as I know, certifications, it doesn't hurt, but it's not what they're looking for. They care about portfolios. And the reason they care about portfolios is, again, does it solve our problem? We need X thing for our game. Show me an image that shows me what I want, and you're hired. That's pretty much it. Well, and be trustworthy. Show trustworthiness on your portfolio. And certifications might add that a little bit, but in terms of the creative industry, not really.
Yeah, I totally agree. No, I've never once been asked for any of my certifications, never been asked for my grades, never been asked where I went to college. All that's mattered is just like, here's my portfolio, here's my work. And then when I hire people, never. I've never been like, oh, well, where'd you go to? Oh, where's it? I'm just like, cool, how does it look? And that's what's nice is in other industries, you can't do that, right? If you're an engineer, it's like, here's all my homework. That's all you can share, right? So the only way someone knows if you're good or not is based on your certification. But for us, you can actually see what we've made and look at it and see if it fits. So it's more important that what's more important is that you're developing a voice, you're developing a clear, set of skill sets that's valuable to clients, and that you're able to show what your unique skill sets are as opposed to other people. So if you're doing a Unity, which is a video game, right, development kit, what specifically are you good at? Like there's tons of genres of video games, and you being able to show off one specific thing is going to be way better than if you have like, well, I have some 3D animation of a character. Like this is a problem with school, is they only try to create generalists. So you're going to end up walking out probably with the full game development package, right? You're going to know how to animate characters. You're going to know how to apply textures. You're going to know how to do a first-person shooter and isometric. Find whatever video game genre that you're really passionate about and triple down on that. There are people making good money just doing sprite animation, 2D sprite animation. Duelist,
or even just if you ever play World of Warcraft or any like those little icons that you press buttons that create actions. Those are artists that make that,
right?
And they get paid money to do so.
Yeah, no, there's UI artists, Naughty Dog, right? And they're super good. And all they do is just like make all the little icons for the weapons and everything else. So if like showing something like that you're really passionate about is a great way to get a job at a larger studio, or even at an indie studio.
They're like, we need this.
Right. That's like looking for someone specific. That's what I would recommend doing more so than worrying so much about the certification. I'd be completely okay if you never finished your classes, but you got a really great portfolio that showed 5 or 6 or even like 3 to 5, we'll say 3 to 5 pieces in one lane that you were really good at, that you've really, flushed out.
Yeah. What's the problem you're solving?
Right.
That's usually it.
Right.
What problems are game industries facing that they need your help?
Mm-hmm.
And what problem are you solving? And the more you solve that problem and show that, you build trust, and people hire people who they trust.
Yes.
So for sure. Artur Martura says, for architecture, look at John Marek work. He's awesome. Sweet. Thanks for sharing that. Hopefully people will look into that. Thanks for the answers. You guys are so welcome. Thanks for joining. Thanks for investing in yourselves.
Yeah, I love this. This is like my favorite thing in the world.
Nice. Mr. DS, how do you overcome the fear of not being good enough? So for a paid job, we addressed this in the webinar. I imagine you weren't here at the beginning, so watch the replay, and we'll answer here as well. The fear of not being good enough.
Again, I think one of the problems is you're not defining what good enough means. Like when you just look at your work and you're like, is it good enough? I don't know. Will someone pay you for it? Right? So instead of just asking, am I good enough? Ask what problem you're solving with your work. So, if you're trying to do 3D character modeling and you want to know if your models are good enough, be like, is this X? So if you're trying to be hyper realistic, that's really difficult. It's like, well, is this a hyper real character? It's like, no, it's not good enough for that. If it's what's up?
Mm-hmm. I feel like. So if this is a full-time job, sorry for interrupting. Yeah, you can finish your thought, actually. I'll let you go.
Okay, so it's just back to defining the things, right? So like you said, if it's a full-time job, what is it they need, and do I meet those, right? That would be the question to ask. And if you're unsure, feel free to reach out. Like they might not respond at that job, but reach out to other, smaller but talented people, and just send them a quick message. Be like, hey, I love your work, blah, blah, blah. Reach out to me or Alan. I'm happy to give you a small portfolio review and let you know what could improve or what not. But I'm not just going to tell you improve everything. It's like, what are you trying to accomplish? Again, like I know it sounds like we're beating this thing into the ground, but It really is about definition. You have to define for yourself what you're trying to achieve, and
Yeah.
and then what the client wants is going to be ultimately the definition
So
for paid work.
exactly, if you have a boss or a client, usually the mistake they make, my wife was having this with one of her bosses, is that the boss can make you feel that fear. They can look at you and communicate with you in a way that makes you feel like you're not good enough, but they don't tell you the specifics. So your job is to make it not about you as an individual, but about the thing. Get it off of you and make it the specific. Okay, it's not good enough. I don't like this, or whatever someone might say. You say, okay, why? Let's get to the specifics so I can measure how to get there. And it's not about me. It's not change who you are or be better, which is just not helpful. It's something specific and measurable you can work towards.
Right. And
So you ask questions.
to jump on top of this, like a springboard off of it, this is also how you get a raise at a job. So if you're at a job and you are feeling like you're undervalued, well, it's because it's unspecific. They're like, well, you need to do more to be worthy of it. And then you're like, well, I've been doing more. And it's like, well, there's a misalignment. So you need to ask them, what is it specifically that you would like to see me improve in? And they go, this, and that. And you go, okay, if I do those things, and can we come back around in 6 months or a year or however long, 3 months you think it's going to take you to accomplish it? And if those things are met, can we talk about X amount in increase for my pay? Otherwise, what I need to do is do those things, and then I'm going to go to another company and say, hey, I've done all these things. Here's how much value I provide on top of, here's the benefit I brought my company this last year. And you don't say, they're not giving me a raise, but, it's like, hey, because I've done this myself where I provided some new talent, some new services that a company wasn't able to provide before. It led to thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in new work for them that they weren't able to get before. And when I asked for a raise, they're like, I don't really know if that's the time. And I'm like, okay. So then I just went to another company and said, hey, here's what I did for this company. Would you want me to do that for you? And how much is it worth? And they're like, that's worth a lot. So I highly recommend doing that. I highly recommend, whether you're looking for a new job, whether you're trying to get better or trying to get a raise, make it achievable, make it practical, right? Set these things as, here's what I need. Here's what we're talking about. So it's not so vague and in the fog all the time.
Nice. All right. So thanks for the comments. Let's skip down. Let me go back where we were. What is a good source for rate comparison? I do Glassdoor. There's some websites depending on the industry you're in. Bradley, first of all, thanks for asking that question. Glassdoor.com is a good one. There's also, every once in a while, there's some YouTubers or people who will share their rates. So find podcasts, blogs, different people who share what they make. And then you can compare with that in your industry.
Again, I'd go less off of what other people are charging, and I'd go more off of what you need, like we said before. That calculation's always
he says for comparison, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure. But I would rather not compare, right? Because here's the thing. There's people like Beeple that are amazing, but are just undercharging like crazy. Like they're just like, oh, I'll do this for free because it's a big brand. And it's like, oh, I'll do like... And they're crazy successful. So you can compare yourself to them, and their work is way better than anything I can make. But they're not charging what they should, And there's other people that are kind of crappy, and then you look at what they're charging. Like this happens all the time in the wedding photography business. You'll be amazed at some of these amazing, wedding videographers and photographers, and they're just charging like chump change. And then you get some people that are just been around for a really long time. They have a solid. They just know like, well, people come to me all the time, and they charge way more. And it's like, you could compare, or you could just figure out what it is you need to live and what it is you need to be successful and charge that.
No, I don't. In my case, it's been good to know what other people are charging, but also be researching the value.
So okay. So here's another good thing: figure out what everyone else is charging and then charge more. That's what I did. Like in my market when I was freelance, I was like, what is everyone charging? Oh, $35 an hour. I'm charged $45.
Yeah,
and then then what's funny is a lot of times the value is perceived based off of what you charge. So if you're charging $45 an hour, I'm like, wow, this guy seems to be really good, The secret is you have to deliver. So if I say I'm worth 2 of those people, you have to be worth 2 of those people. So
yeah. So hopefully, Bradley, that answers the question of comparison. Glassdoor and research what other people as a comparison, and Alex suggests go higher, which is not a bad suggestion if you can deliver.
Most people are undercharging.
That's true. Most creatives are undercharging, so you're safe to go higher.
Unless you work for me, in that case, don't charge more. Undercharge. I'm kidding. I pay people good.
All right. Pavel, I think you were in the last webinar, Pavel. I remember your name. So if you want to be a hard surface modeler, how much effort do I need to put in presentation my pieces of work? For example, colors, compositing, and story behind the scene. So I would say proportionate to making sure your hard surface is the main thing. Like, don't make an okay gun on an amazing face if what you're trying to do is the gun. So, but what I followed a tweet recently, and I shared it in the CG Career Booster community where I think he's the head of hiring. He's one of the lead artists at Ubisoft. And he said, making an environment for your piece goes a long way. So make sure the piece is upfront and most visible, and giving it a bit of a story, just enough to make it stand out a little bit, goes a long way. So not you don't have to go as far as to like make a full movie just to show off a gun. That's crazy. But not the opposite, which is you make this amazing gun and then you're like, all right, I'm just going to put it in an empty 3D scene and there you go. Find a balance to where it makes it stand out just enough to makes you go like, ooh, this is interesting. It looks like it has a bit of a story to it, but it's still present enough. So I would find that balance.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's Errol Greason has a really good comment about standing out an eighth of an inch, and it's because he sent his resume to a client. This is back when everything was paper, and he had it specifically printed on, I think, bright yellow or bright red paper, and just an eighth of an inch taller than everyone else's. So when you sat down at the desk and you stack all your papers to get them all to line up, there's this one sticking out with a yellow tab. And it's like, what the heck? And they pull it out, and then you stand out, and now you're the memorable one. So that's what Alan's kind of talking about, is stand out just a bit more. You don't, if you try too hard, it sets off all sorts of triggers, right? We're all like, well, why is this guy trying so hard? Like, what's going on? But just standing out that much more is a really good way of doing that. So put all the work in, have the work look fantastic, and then add something special.
I'll go back to the dating example. Like, to impress a girl, if you dress nicely, or if a girl wants to impress a guy, she dresses nicely. That's cool. That's like, oh, that's nice. Like, you smell nice, you look nice, you got clean teeth. That's standing out a little bit. To impress a girl, you walk up and do 3 backflips and shoot 2 guns in the air. That's like, whoa, okay, that's intimidating. That's scary. So don't go too far.
I mean, but if you can do 3 backflips and are somehow able to hold on to 2 guns at the same time without getting arrested, that's kind of impressive. Like a ninja.
But it won't get you the results you want if you want.
You'll get noticed by police probably.
Yeah, exactly. So how long does it take? Bradley asks, how long does it take to become a self-sustaining? As a freelancer? How long did it take us? So, I started out straight freelancing, and I'm
kidding.
I don't know. I struggled for a long time. I was self-sustaining, but it took me about 2 to 3 years to get the hang of freelancing. And again, I created this course, the CG Career Booster course, so you don't have to go through that. But that's how long it took me, and I had to figure out a lot on the way. But I was self-sustaining at the beginning, but it was hard. Like, I had to cut back on a lot of costs and went through a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So that's me.
So
my first client, my first client didn't pay me in 6 months, and that was rough. And another client cheated me out of like 4,000 euros, and I just made every mistake you can think of freelancing. So yeah, that was rough. Go ahead.
Yeah. So again, I not to be a shill and sell too hard, but this is what Alan's course is about, right? The whole thing is about avoiding all these issues that lead to, having this horribly painful freelance life, right? The freedom in freelancing, it's like getting that freedom to do what you want rather than it being a burden. For me, it took. I have a different experience, so I'm not. I don't. Okay. I'm fine to take risks. I like taking risks, but I don't take stupid risks. Okay. Like this idea that you can just jump out a window and everything's going to be great. I'm fine to jump on an airplane, but I want a parachute. So this is what I did is I worked full time for a company creating casino games. I was an animator, creating all the explosions and sparkles and everything else. Lots of falling coins. And I lined up a large gig. I lined up a very big project that I knew could pay me for a few months. I knew it was going to be a few months worth of payment. And then that's when I jumped ship to go full-time freelance, is once I had that project lined up. So you can overlap these things. You know, the best time to look for a new job is when you have a job. The best time to make these leaps. So what I don't recommend doing is jumping into freelance with no clue, no idea, no strategy, no plan. That's a recipe for failure. And this is where you hear all these people say like it's horrible and awful and you're going to fail. I had a fantastic experience. My first 3 months of freelancing was wonderful. Then that job dried up and it got a lot more stressful and I had to develop systems very quickly. But I was able to, in my first year, make about $56,000 US freelancing because I had that first job, which is about a $13,000 job total.
So you hear that? You need to charge more than Alec, what he just said.
So I jumped out of the gate. I jumped out of the gate charging, $50 an hour, $45 an hour, and then worked on.
Well, that's why
project.
when I asked Alec, we've known each other a while. I was struggling freelancing, and eventually Alec was like, "How much are you charging?" And I was like, $15 an hour, and he's like, "Dude, charge 45 or 35." He said.
Right.
I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Just do it." And I was like, "All right." So my next client, I was like, 45 an hour, and they're like, "Okay."
Yep.
And I was just like, "What? Okay, that was easy."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So a lot of this is going to be, dependent on you having the confidence to know what your value is. You can do some research, figure out the competition is and stuff like that, but line up clients and then line up where the next project's going to be before your project ends. That's going to be the biggest trick. Is going from 0 to 1 is really, really hard. Right? The first time doing anything, the first time we make a really big deal out of it, right? The first steps a baby takes, it's like, wow, you took your first step. Like now you're walking everywhere and everyone's like, yeah, who cares? Right? The very first time you learn to do something, it's really hard. And the same thing, your first client is going to be the most difficult. First, like big long-term client is going to be the most difficult. Once you have one, you can trade that one for two. And once you have two, the best part about having two is you can keep one while trading the other, right? So that's what you're going to want to be doing is you're going to be wanting to trade up, and you first need to do is get something. And I recommend, to be honest, a full-time job somewhere, but that then you can use that as a base to start trading up to some freelance projects. Then once you have enough of those, trade up to more, trade up, and you just keep doing that until you have a good enough pool of clients to keep paying you throughout the year. You're going to find a couple of studios. There's an 80-20 rule still applies where 20% of anything is creates 80% of the value. So 20% of your clients are going to create 80% of your work. 20% of your time is going to create 8% of your profits. So when it comes, this is the case with clients, right? You're going to want to find your long-term clients that are going to be most of your work, and then you're going to get a few filler things to fill in the gaps between projects and when you're looking. So
all right.
That's what I recommend.
So we've been into this session about an hour and a half. We're going to start wrapping up. Let's see if we can get through as many questions as we can. If you have any last ones, go ahead and post them. So, all right, let's go to the next one. Where or how should I, so Mr. A. Grismek, thanks for being here. Thanks for asking this question. Where or how should I look for clients if I haven't specialized in an area, for example, architecture? So like we said, first define them, choose a specific kind of client that you help their problems, and start specializing and helping them. And if you need money right now, find a part-time job, full-time job, find something to sustain you as you continue specializing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And
I think also,
if you haven't specialized in architecture, sorry, I'll say this real quick. If you haven't specialized in architecture, VFX, animation, specialize in a problem you solve and how you solve it. Because I can help right now through my skills architecture freelancers find good clients. I can help VFX freelancers, because what I've specialized in with you guys is helping you find your ideal clients in the creative industry, specifically more related to CG, motion graphics, art, graphic design. So that's my specialty. So specialize in the problem you solve or in the skill. That would be my answer.
Right. Yeah. So I agree with that. There's a myriad of ways to stand out and to be specialized. You can specialize in style, right? So this is a great example where there's artists like Billis, Spiztac, even Ashthorpe to a certain extent. They have a certain look and feel that they've specialized in. And that allows you to, so they've worked on video games, on films, and on other things, but it's always underneath this, like for Billis, Bill Ellis, I think it is. He's like all golden skulls and black and like repeating textures, and it's just like that over and over and over again. So, find out where it is you want to specialize. It's okay to be a generalist at first because you're tasting, right? This is like a Gary Vaynerchuk note, but you're going to be tasting a lot of different things. Soon as something like, is it like, oh, that's really interesting, maybe I want to go down that, like push down that for a little while. Give it 6 months, give it 3 months, whatever, of just pursuing it. I would say it's probably a minimum of 6 months, to be honest, to see a return. But start pushing your portfolio in that direction and just do steady projects. And the big secret, like Alan was saying, is find something to keep you afloat during that time. And I recommend finding just about whatever you can that gives you the freedom to work on your craft while doing it. What you don't want to do is find something that you're so desperate to, make a living and live a certain lifestyle that it takes up all of your time. You aren't given any freedom.
Yeah.
The nice part is right now, the benefit of this whole COVID thing is there's more work from home than ever. There's more remote work than ever. So if you can find a job that lets you work full time, I have a friend that does makes good money doing sales and web like technical assistance. Right? He's just on the phone all day long, but he's working from home, and so he can do whatever he wants on his machine while his work computer, he's just answering phone calls. It's like phone call comes in, he does all this stuff, and then in the meantime he's rendering something. In the meantime he's doing whatever else on the side. So those jobs can be brutal. I'm not saying that those jobs are always great, but he's found one that works for him. So just play around. Don't be afraid to quit. Don't be afraid to look for a new job while you have a job, and find the one that's going to give you the most amount of freedom. That's what I did when I started my agency. Is I realized it was really hard to work freelance, constantly be trying to find new work and grow into an agency. So what I did is I took a full-time job for 2 years and then built up my agency during that 2 years time. So that way, once again, when I jumped ship, I had everything kind of ready to go. The boat was already built, when I launched it, rather than trying to launch a boat while building it.
Yeah. So next question from OJ Fidelino. First of all, thank you for being here. Thanks for asking a good question. What would you recommend as the best way to set up a portfolio for more technically inclined as opposed to artistically talented? So, for example, rigging. First thing I would do is look up the best riggers, see how they set up their portfolio, learn from that. And we go back to what problems are you solving, and how, what a lot of people like more and more is seeing your process. So if you set up a rigging project, you say, this was my challenge to set up this specific kind of rig. Here's my process. Here's my solution, and take them on a journey. And the more you do that, the more trust you're building in your skills and in your way of thinking, which is, more than your pretty work, people want your thinking. They want your skills. So that's how I would set that up, is show that journey, give context. Like, this is my problem. This is how I arrived here. The better you do that and over again, the more trust you're building with your clients, and the more likely they are to hire you.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with Alan on this. As far as the rigging goes, first off, I don't think you'll have
you would.
I don't think you have any problem getting hired as a rigger if you get good at it. It's one of those things that nobody wants to do, and
there's a
I always am looking for people. Yeah, hit me up. Like, I'm always looking for someone that's a rigger, technical animator. It's the stuff that's not pretty. Nobody gets to see it in the end product, but it's so essential. And if you have a good rig, it's the difference between good animation and bad animation. So, yeah, I highly recommend pursuing that rigging job. I think if you can stick with it in this show, what's nice is the bar is a lot lower for you in some ways because the demand is so high.
Even if it's not what you want to do for the rest of your life, at least it gives you that solid foundation to keep on building on.
Right. I think the biggest secret is going to be finding a place to show your work that you're going to get noticed and well known for. That's one of the hardest things about things like rigging is they don't make it to the top of ArtStation, right? They don't make it to the top of Instagram because it's not sexy. But I can't tell you how many times I've gone to ArtStation. I've searched for like rigger or animator or one of the big ones for me is, and for everybody right now, if you want work, okay, listen to my words. If you want work, learn Unreal, the Unreal Cinematics side. I think it's called Unreal Scenes or something like that. I forget what they call it, but that is right now, everyone's scrambling, trying to find people that know how to set up a camera and do cool movements in Unreal. And if you can do virtual production, that's a big deal right now is virtual production. Well, that's what they did in The Mandalorian, where they're projecting the thing behind the person. But yeah, learning a skill like that's really good. And then, like Alan said, you just present it by showing your thought process.
Let's move on so we have enough time. Alec likes to share so much value. And
that's what they're here for. That's what they're here for.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Can you provide a list of websites for freelance work? I would say Google it. I mean, we can. I can tell you off the top of my head. But I imagine if you Google it, you'll find a more complete list. Off the top of my head, Kevin, if you're here and listening, there's Upwork, there's Freelancer, there's, what's it called?
Right.
Yeah, I can't even think of that many right now because I'm so focused on the individual clients.
Yeah, there's a lot of places where you can go and find freelance work. The problem with those sites is you're competing with everyone else that's using that site to find freelance work.
Yeah, actually, here's a better way to answer that. Find where your clients are looking for you and post your work there.
Yes.
So Behance, ArtStation. Where are your clients? Are they on one of those two? Are they on other forums? Because it's like, where do your fish go to feed? And that's where you put your hook. So not that you're going to fish out and kill your clients for food, but where are your clients looking for answers? So there's so many websites and you can find them easily. The better answer that I can think of actually helping you, instead of naming every website I know, is figure out who your client is and where they are looking.
Yeah, and then that's the other thing is you're going to want clients that are coming to you specifically for your work versus you pitching, trying to make yourself fit the client. And that's not going to end very well on many projects. And like I said, you're competing with everyone else on those sites versus if you get clients to come to you, there's no competition. They're coming to you, right? So, or it's a much smaller pool where they've pre-vetted and been like, I want you, you, and you, and I'm going to ask all three of you to tell me why you're better versus, throwing your hat into a ring of 100 people. As I do not recommend doing that as much.
Yeah. I mean, this is a good point that Alec brings up of like why, for example, some dating apps, it's harder to find people. It's because of the mindset it puts you in as you're joining, which is yes, no, yes, no. But if you meet someone on the street, someone sends you an email wanting to learn more about you, it's like you change that mindset. You're more side to side with the person. And all of a sudden it's less superficial and it's more about the value, the depth of a relationship that is really valuable.
Right. And like you said, it's like, if you're asking again, like, how do I meet like good women or good men, right? It's like, go to where they are, right? Like, you're not going to find a quality person going to the club and, where everyone else is going, competing, and then trying to get what you can at the end of the night. What's far better is if you're looking for valuable, high paying jobs, is to go to where those clients are. So, in the case of people, it's like, where would they might be? Like, go to an office party, go to a friend's, wedding, this is where people meet people that are quality people that aren't just there to do something.
And now during COVID, it's probably, what was I going to say? Communities. Like the CG Boost has a community. Right. If you joined one of the courses, there's actually an open community. So there's different communities now setting up online where people are going to engage with one another. And that's where you can meet either colleagues or clients, people you can learn from or people who you can help.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's actually a really good tip too, because that's where somebody's going to say, does anyone know anybody that does X, right? So you join a community of, I would try to avoid finding people that do what you do, because they're not going to be looking to hire you. Find people that do the thing that you need and join that community. So I have a friend that's built tens of thousands of subscribers on YouTube by going to wedding photography. He is a wedding photographer, and he goes to these wedding photography groups. But rather than talking about wedding photography and trying to get hired there, he's giving advice on how to use cameras, and he's giving away presets, and he has a specific camera that he uses, and that's how he's gotten a lot of followers, is by going to those groups and showing them how to use their equipment better. So rather than going to those groups and competing with them for work, going to those groups to find it. So for you, it'd be like going to game dev groups, and then if someone goes, does anyone know how to rig something, or anyone know a rigger? Right, that's when you get your rigging job. So go to game development groups if you're looking to work for game devs. If you're looking to do, like I said, join virtual production groups, and then show off that you're Unreal Engine and so on and so forth. That's going to be far better. They're going to be pre-vetted. You're going to get word of mouth recommendations. It's going to be far better than you competing with 100 other people as strangers on a project.
Yep. Tarbik says the stream has so many tips on relationships and how to impress women.
What can we say? We're both ladies, men. I think we both got married super young and then haven't ever tried again. So we might be talking out of our butts here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But maybe we're just more successful. The fact that we did it we did it first try. Hey,
for everybody here.
Yeah.
All right. So Tarbik also asks, how do you take work less seriously? I'm such a perfectionist that if someone wanted a simple visualization of a dream machine, I would spend too much time on it in order for it to look super good. So that's a good question.
I run into this with artists all the time. I'm like, can I just get this? And then they'll be like, here, I worked all weekend. Here you go. And I'm like, oh, gosh, I just wanted a simple little thing.
Yeah. So again, if you define the goal, then it's easier to just reach that goal. And if you focus your mindset on truly helping your client, perfectionism doesn't actually help them. It slows them down, and it kind of makes them frustrated because you're caring about a piece of the machine that they don't care about and won't make their life any better. So you can be perfectionistic in a way of like, did I nail that goal for them? Then they'll be like, sure, thanks. Like, thanks for striving so high. And I would say that's it for me. I know there's some sayings that perfectionism is an excuse for not doing or for not moving on or something like that. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't struggle with perfectionism. That's my wife. But yeah. That's
why your work looks so much better. I'm kidding. No, but
her work is better.
No, but one of the I agree with Alan. I think once again you're looking at the wrong parameters. The problem is you're trying to look at what do I view as success, and for you it's making the baddest, coolest visualization because that's what you care about. But your goal needs to switch to what in the client's eyes is success. And if your goal is to actually help people, if you're actually being empathetic and trying to solve people's problems, then that's the goal that you should be meeting. And you should be letting go of your selfish goals of, I want everyone to look at this and give me tons of thumbs up when I post it to Dribble or ArtStation or wherever, and instead be like, what does a client need? And if I meet their needs, I'm happy. Should be
There's actually a difference between the people who get all the likes. I've met people who have millions of likes, millions of subscribers, and they're struggling financially because they're not focused on helping their clients who has the money, to be honest. And it's a weird thing to learn that I don't have that much of a social media following, neither is Alec. But we're doing pretty well financially. Alec has impressed me in many ways of his business skills and has Disney, Intel, Godfall, AMD as clients, which are big names. And honestly, these are the richest companies in the world right now. And Alec has them as clients, and he doesn't have a huge social media following. So not that it's bad, but if you pursue that first, you might be missing out on where there is true value. And not that we're all super money focused, but if you put profit at a good place in your business, it gives you freedom to pursue other things. And if you're constantly pursuing that's actually not that much freedom.
I know so many people that make work for themselves and then try to sell it to a client, and then the client doesn't like it, and then they complain about how hard it is to be a starving artist because I'm making such good work, and then they don't want it. It's like you're being completely selfish. Like, if you want the client to value what you do something for them. You know, it's like getting mad that, like, I mean, we're gonna go back to relationships here with anything, right? It's like it's like like the way I always talk to clients, I'm like, look, if you go walk into a restaurant, right, and you go, I want this, but I don't want pickles. The chef doesn't go like, come out, stomp and throw a rag at your face and be like, what do you mean? This is how I make it with pickles. It's like, you don't want pickles. And you're like, yeah, I want it well done. They don't come out and be like, how dare you ruin a perfectly good steak? They're like, he wants it well done. That's what he wants. That's what we're going to give it. Like, that's what we're going to do. They want, extra toppings. Sure. No toppings. Sure. It's not how the chef would do it. The chef's like, you've ruined the complete balance of this beautiful thing I made. He's come up with that recipe and perfected it. And then you're going in and messing with it. But it's for you, right? And he'd be a bad chef if he sat there and yelled at you. And you hear stories like at really, really fancy restaurants of these chefs being like, you can only order it this one way, and that's the way it comes out. And if you don't like it tough, sure, you can be that chef. But I'm pretty sure that, hold the pickles, hold the lettuce, gets a lot more clients and money than the 5-star chef that's sitting there being all stingy with who gets to eat his food and how. So
yeah, I honestly don't know how the restaurant business works, but it is a good example. And I've asked my clients before what's their experience in hiring people, and I hope this really sticks with you guys. They say it's hard to find good freelancers. I always thought my vision of hiring good artists and freelancers is that there's so many of them that they can just pick, but they're struggling. They're like, once they find one, and it's not the most amazing talented people, it's people who they can trust, who get the job done, and who care about their goals. And when you think about it, how many businesses do you know that care about your goals truly, that aren't out there trying to manipulate you to buy or do things? It's pretty rare. So when you find it, you're just like, yes, finally. I know there's businesses and products I like to buy consistently because it's like I finally found someone out there who's not seeing me as just a way of me getting them what they want and money. So that's the main mistake artist makes, actually, is please pay me to do what I want to do. And no one does that. Artists, we have to change that mentality. It's you're paying me because I'm giving you value and I'm helping you achieve your goals. And that's what I want to do with the course. That's what I do with this call is you're here because I'm here trying to help you achieve your goals.
And then, so this is a really good example. And then how you get the clients that you like working with because their goals line up with your goals is by being really clear with your positioning, by being really clear with the work you're putting out there is the work you want to get. So the problem is people are generalists. They put out general work. Then they get clients from all over the place that don't match up with the work they want to do. Then they try to force that client into the work that they want. And then the client isn't happy with the results. And then it's a mess. And it's like, this is a very long answer, I guess, for a very kind of small question, but it's really good. Yeah. It's a much deeper question, I think, than we might realize at first, but we can move on. But that's what happens, So this is why it's good to specialize in something you're interested. Show that, get hired for that, and then it works out because they're hiring you for what you like to do, and then what you like to do is what they need.
Yeah. All right, so let's try and get on to the next questions. You guys are still here. I see we're down to less people, but that's fine because we still.
I don't care. That could be one person, and I would answer their question. I'm not here for the number. We just talked about this, Alan, at the beginning of the show. Not here for the numbers. Come on. What are you doing? Falling for that trap.
There's a VFX group that meets and holds. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, OJ. That's probably a great resource. Oh, I don't like it when it pops to the bottom. All right. It's been eye-opening to seeing all the departments and roles. Thanks for sharing that. Hey, contact OJ if you have a chance. He might have some good things to share with you. Sorry for putting you out there. What's your opinion about the Blender Network website? It was supposed to connect. Yeah, Manu. Yeah, I don't go check there very often. I haven't put myself there. I would ask someone on there, what's their experience? Reach out to a few people, say, hey, do you think it's worth it? They'll probably be honest. My experience is I don't check it too often. But you never know. You have to ask them maybe they'll be like, yeah, I actually get plenty of work. So I would ask that. OG Filino shared something awesome. Bradley says he's looking for more freelance on the side, so it's hard to say what I need to make.
Okay, as far as charging, I would like some more context. Bradley, if you're still around, what do you mean by need to make? You're talking about financially, as far as calculating out how much to charge because you're like, oh, it's just a side thing?
Bradley just asked, are pants necessary for online meeting with clients?
I'm not wearing pants right now.
No.
Or am I? You'll never know.
Good question.
Just kidding. I'm wearing pants and shoes. I can't get out of bed in the morning and not put on pants and shoes.
Are pants necessary? I mean, depends where you put them. Don't put them on your head, or just if you use them, put them on correctly. If not, don't show them.
Don't stand. Just make sure you don't have to stand up. Don't be like that. There's been plenty of horrible stories of people going to the bathroom with their laptop and not realizing the camera's on. Don't be one of those people. Be professional. That's what I would recommend. Whatever is going to be professional. I love how seriously we take this question. At least I did.
Yeah, very serious. You've mentioned that you can do a review portfolio. Oh, Alec, they're calling you Artur Machura. How can send you the link? He wants to send you
the link.
The best way.
To here's okay. Do you want to take these, Alan, for the next call, or do you want me to take them?
Oh yeah, actually, send it to support@cgboost.com. I just put that in the chat.
Send it to there, and we'll review it.
I don't know if that worked correctly. Let me try that again.
I don't know if you can send links or not, but yeah, send it to support@cgboost.com. Or if you go to Royals and Rogues in the contact me page, just send it there. In the contact us at royalsandrogues.com.
And our next call, we'll talk about portfolios and we'll review.
If you guys have them, we'll review them there. So tune in for the next call. Alan, what time? When is that?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. CET time tomorrow.
So that's 2 hours ago.
Yeah, 2 hours ago tomorrow, and we'll review your portfolios there. And if you can't make it, we'll still review it. Maybe you won't be able to ask questions, so it's not going to be as valuable because we won't be able to get the answers on like, hey, why did you do this or how did you do this? But we'll still give it a review.
All right. Wihan Schultz says he's an architectural visualizer and wants to learn Blender because he saw some really good renders. Should I go through the effort or stick with what I know? Depends on your goal. It really depends on your goal. Should you? To be honest, I don't know. You can do good work in Blender. Blender is free and open source. There's a great community. Do your clients want you to use Blender?
This is what I would say. I would say, do you want to work for a studio that does architecture design, or do you want to be an architectural freelancer? If you're an architectural freelancer, you can do whatever the heck you want. If you want to work for a studio, if you find a studio that you're like, I really want to do work for them, or find out what they use, and then learn it, and then even ask them, be like, are you looking to hire someone? And if so, what skills are you looking for? Feel free to do that. They might not all write back. Ask like 5 to 10. Someone will write back.
Yeah, that's good.
Or you can also ask other 3D designers that you appreciate. Hey, what are you using? I know they hate getting those questions because it's not about the tools, it's about the artist. But shut up, it's about the tools.
What I go down to, all right, this is a good conversation. Tools. Should I use the axe or the paintbrush? Are you painting or are you cutting down a tree?
Yes.
That's the answer. So tools are valuable. There was a study done on the accuracy of soldiers 200 years ago versus soldiers nowadays. And it turns out soldiers nowadays are more accurate. Does that mean they train more? No, it means they have better tools. So better tools do influence your career. Don't do everything yourself. This is a good reminder for you guys. Don't do everything yourself. Find ways to get the results you're looking for as effectively as possible.
Yeah.
And
people are tools.
Tools are getting better, and they do have an influence, and they are important. But it's this balance of the better the artist, the better you know how to use the tool. The better the tool, the better the artist. And it's this feeding thing. If you have a bad laptop, it's hard to grow. Unfortunately, I wish we all were born with RTX 3080s right now. And we had the laptops right there, or the computers. And we all had that same level there, but we don't. We all have different struggles. So tools do influence.
For sure. At the same time, I'm rocking a 2070. A lot of my people I hire are rocking, some of them are still rocking 1080s, GTX 1080s, and just have like 2 or 3 of them. You don't have to have it, but it's an investment that you need to choose as you go. But I'd recommend finding out what they're using, what's the job you want, what is industry standard for your industry, and learn that.
Yeah. Pavel asks if there's no, there's, is there a point where you know everything about 3D or is it an endless journey? It's an endless journey. Art in 3D is endless, but that's the fun part. It's a fun, endless journey. And there is a point where you start seeing big results. And that's why understanding the fundamentals is so important, because then it's much easier to keep up with the technology and keep on getting
Yeah,
better.
there's a point where your learning changes, is I think what I would point out is like there's a good section of your time where you're just trying to figure out how to make 3D stuff. You're just trying to figure out how to get your life like on track and how to get this stuff together. And eventually you hit this point where you are now more concerned with like the soft skills rather than the hard skills, right? So you're going to make this transition from when you're young and when you're in college, there's a lot of hard skills you're trying to learn. Hard skills are things like editing, writing, 3D modeling, right? They're the literal tools you're going to need. Soft skills are like communication, budgeting, meeting, I don't know. I was gonna say like ability, like banter and stuff like that. As I'm obviously like horribly doing, but all those things are fantastic. And that's what you start switching to. You start switching to soft skills. So if you listen to like the collective podcast with Ash Thorpe, he doesn't talk very much about hard skills. Like he's like, oh yeah, I'm using this program or that program, but he's way more concerned with like the ideas and concepts behind what he's creating and the color palette and all this other stuff. So that's where you can infinitely learn. But it changes from hard skills to soft skills, and then you'll learn a new piece of tech, and it'll be hard skills again, and then you'll go back to soft skills. So,
all right. So last question. Hopefully I didn't skip one. Where do game companies looking for employee? ArtStation, Twitter are great places to check out, Pavel. And again, find out, go research and go find out where they're looking. So OJ Fidelino asks a really good question. Are you worried about AI taking over, for example, deepfakes?
Yeah, this is a good like non-on topic question to end the call on.
I actually have something quick to say about that. Do you have something you want to say first?
Oh, I mean, I have opinions on everything, so.
All right, I'll go first then. There's an episode of The Office I like a lot, if you guys know what The Office is, where Michael Scott is brought into a university to talk about. He's brought in and he thinks he's a big. He's a funny character. So he's brought in to talk to the university students about how he runs his paper selling business. And this is, of course, during a time when the internet is growing and everyone has laptops and paper is becoming less and less valuable. And to make this short, at the end, he basically says to them, he's not in the paper business as much. He's in the people business, and people never go out of style. And that's a great point, that the more you learn about helping people, the more you learn about using your tools to help people and developing good relationships, good business relationships with people, the less you have to worry about AI taking over your job. So if you're the best rigger in the world and there's a tool coming out that's AI that rigs everything, the more you've developed problem solving, caring about your clients and solving their real problems, the less you have to worry about tools becoming better and removing your job, because you've developed great relationships and made yourself valuable in that way. You're not just the guy who does this. So that would be my answer.
Yeah. No.
See you tomorrow, Pavel, and Drawing Graphics.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining as we wrap up here. I just 100% agree with Alan on that. It's just like, that's where it's at. Just get to know people, build relationships. And, I can't tell you how many people hire me for things I've never done before just because they trust that I can solve that problem. And so building yourself up as more than the tools that you're using, which is why the tools don't matter as much, but being able to learn and execute and show your process is more important. So thank you everyone for joining. It's been absolutely amazing. I hope to see you tomorrow. Everybody share this with one friend for tomorrow. And if you want your portfolio reviewed, send it to, that's your cue.
Support@cgboost.com.
Support@cgboost.com, and we'll review it tomorrow.
And everybody also thank Alec for joining us. He's been great. We've been friends for a while, and he's just a great guy. And just thank you, Alec, for joining this call. I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. Alec will be joining tomorrow again as well.
I will, but I want
And
to see
we'll be
bigger
talking about
numbers.
portfolios.
I'm into the numbers.
Yeah,
No, but seriously,
we will be talking.
It's a great opportunity to get a fantastic discount on is an amazing course, I think.
Oh, thank you. So tomorrow, talking about portfolios. How can you set up your work? How can you choose what your next project is to align with your clients and get them booked and interested? Get you booked and them interested in you. So thanks everyone for joining. Thanks Tushar, everybody. Just thank you guys. It's important that you're investing in yourselves, that you're growing, and that you're not lost on social media and all these places. Hopefully you were here and you were focused.
Yeah.
So,
and like Alan said at the beginning of the call, write this down, write down what you learned, and go execute on it right away, because that's where you're going to see the value.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone. See you tomorrow.
All right. Bye.